The theatrical run of the first 4 Hellraiser movies will always stand tall, regardless of how you feel about each individual entry. They were strange and unique stories that defined the late 80s and early 90s, both darkly bitter yet also a bit sweet, like honey from the bee. But anyway, what if I told you Bloodline is far more of an interesting story than it gets credit for? A more fitting ending than the character has gotten ever since. It's a messy ride, yes, but it's one worth taking. So let's pick your pleasure, rub the box, because this is Hellraiser Bloodline. Screenwriter Peter Atkins, who helped co-write parts 2 and 3, came up with an ambitious story that finally killed off Pinhead. Now, Berge was pretty hands-off for part 3, as the studio got cheap and refused his involvement fee. But wanting a proper cap-off, he came back for part 4 as an executive producer. The issue is that Bloodline was the product of Dimension and of course the Weinsteins. This had the unfortunate luck of having them go back on the script they themselves had already greenlit, and give director and special effects extraordinaire Kevin Yagher enough of a headache during and after production that he quit and took his name off the movie. The draft Yagher turned in was 111 minutes, and the one that we got was 82. So yeah, shit went down. Hellraiser Bloodline is the 4th and final film in the original lineup. It's the last to hit theaters before the long and brutal winter of straight-to-DVD sequels. You know, where Pinhead played more of a Rod Serling character. I think The Twilight Zone, only produced by the Asylum. Bloodline's entire purpose is meant to be the true ending that tied up the ever-growing saga in a poignant way. But before it came Hellraiser 3, it was the series' misguided attempt at trying to turn Pinhead into the next Freddy, with him taking on more of a prominent role, way more dialogue, and some neat action, if not a bit out of character for the series.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Now, I do have a soft spot for part 3, but the schlock and fun that we got just wasn't quite right for this dark and sexual series. You see, the scope and Bloodline is what's always impressed me, taking place in 3 different timelines, 1796, 1996, and 2127. And with each generation a swing and a miss in terms of taking down the Hell Priest. But with each miss, the bloodline of the Toymaker evolves. Merchant learns and grows. Bloodline acts as a prequel to the original and a sequel to part 3. And even with the low critical and fan response of parts 3 and 4, I gotta be honest, there is a charm to the convoluted way the 80s horror icons contained their stories, regardless of the writer and director. And nowadays they reboot, remake, they just change shit. But back then you always had to start where the last guy left off. And it's something I always just kind of found creative. Simpler times, really. But in this sequel, we get to see the plight of one man's ancestry trying to defeat the Hell Priest and Cenobites once and for all.
Hell is what I'm going to catch, and I'm gonna burn it away in a blaze of light.
We get to learn about the creation of the original box and its creator, Philippe Le Merchant.
Finest toy maker in France.
Or Merchant later on.
John Merchant.
We come to understand the original good nature intent of the box, and how it was commissioned from a devil-worshipping aristocrat.
As precise as your pieces.
Hellraiser Bloodline gets back to the basics. It shifts the focus away from Pinhead, which is the right move, or, the best it can with the Weinsteins f***ing with the chronological order of things, and Merchant, played by Bruce Ramsey, and Angelique, played by the stunning Valentina Vargas, are far more interesting characters to follow. Now listen, I love Paula Marshall and will always be Team Warlock too. I mean, let's be honest, Julian Sands is a king, but Bloodline paints a more interesting journey with these two. Regardless of studio interference, these are better characters to follow. Angelique serves as our demon foe, and she gets enough screen time as our hero does, making this story equally hers. And honestly, this is the change the series needed. And it's a nice turn of events following the villain and hero on somewhat equal footing. And unlike Julia, Angelique is at a disadvantage, with Merchant almost a predator without being aware he is one. We see her struggles and proverbial dick measuring with Pinhead. She's more fleshed out as a demon looking to replace her superior. Her relationship with Pinhead is more distrusting and aggressive, yet flirty with a bit of sexual tension.
You look like death, princess.
and again a departure from the Cenobite's servant-like behavior that's come before. We jump around 300 years with Angelique trying to stop Merchant's bloodline from creating an alternate box. A box to negate the powers of the original, and close the door between the worlds for good. And to be honest, of all the ways Pinhead and the Cenobites have been stopped, the idea of a good box, a box of light, is a clever way to play itself. A box of light to defeat the box of darkness. This expansion of the original mythology complements what's come before, and without delving too deep or dumbing it down. The 90s were infamous for over-explaining our 80s horror icons. But Bloodline never gives us any real answers, besides the creation of the box. The bigger story threads are still kept vague enough to mystify and entertain. You can give this movie as much crap as you want, but it doesn't over-explain. And the idea of a new box being the only salvation is smart, honestly. We were brought into the Hellraiser universe with a box, and it's a box, which will be our only way out. Having each male in Merchant's bloodline being drawn to the creation of the box is a cool story beat that finds a way to keep itself fresh with the time jumps into different eras. Bloodline gets a hard time. One, because it's clearly cut to pieces, but more than that because it ends up in space. And that's where we as a society have decided that horror franchises go to die. But Bloodline uses the space setting to further the story and has meaning behind it. It's not futuristic for the sake of it.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, of course not.
We end up in space because it's taken this long for Merchant's bloodline to find the technology it needs to create the box. It's the journey discovery that leads to the destination in 2127. The setting directly ties to the crucial information in the story, setup and payoff. But honestly, I think my biggest issue with the space setting is that they should have designed the space base in a way that didn't give away the twist of it being the box itself. Even the script describes it this way, so I guess I can't really complain, but I think designing it differently so you didn't know right away would have been a better way to punctuate the ending. And though it's a short, pieced-together movie, trapping Pinhead in a box, completing the centuries-long battle, is a fitting ending, and one that doesn't feel cheap or forced. It ends the saga in a satisfying and conclusive way, and it feels right.
What have you done?
I have faith in the light. Endgame demon.
Regardless of how long the series continued on after this, Bloodline has the right ending for you to tip your hat, acknowledge the closure, and walk away. Flaws in production aside, Part 4 came out swinging, ditching the Earth-made Cenobites who sported camcorders, CDs, and cocktail shakers, and gave us the melded security twins, whose fatality kill is fantastic. Angelique with her nun dressed like flayed flesh. And side note real quick, I really wish we could have got to see the aristocrat Cenobites and the clown Cenobites. That'd have been so cool. And then there's the Hell Dog, or wolf, I'm not exactly sure. But Pinhead has this pet wolf dog called the Chatterer Beast. And it means, one of two things. Either hell is some kind of evolutionary design, or all dogs don't go to heaven.
Oh, come on. Why would you think that's funny?
No, I looked it up later in life, so I know it's a man formed into a dog-like shape. Probably a kink of some kind. And listen, I ain't here to shame. Dig what you dig, dude. Life is short. There's a lot going for Bloodline if only one can see past the interference. And listen, I get why it's unpopular. Like the assembly cut of Alien 3, you would need to look upon it from afar, see the intentions, what was eventually left in, and its overall purpose. It's not a movie for casual fans, I get it, but if you care about the series and are into this world, this movie works. Even as screwed as Bloodline was from the moment the budget cuts hit, there was a great story here, filled with one of the series' best villains, even if I wish Vargas's voice was left in. Though I gotta give some props because it's actually great ADR.
Then I would like your permission to go by myself.
Then I would like your permission to go by myself.
Bloodline is a flawed but fitting end, and one that if left intact could have been the best sequel we got. Now if interested, Atkins actually recently put out his original screenplay, showing the original vision he had. And I'm sure someone's saying, who would buy the original Hellraiser Bloodline script?
Me. I would.
And they should have been included in the Great Scarlet box set. And according to IMDb, I just found out that it was supposed to be. But Arrow declined since it was an unpopular entry. Like, wait, what? Bitch, you're Arrow Films, not Criterion. You put out schlocky movies. This is the point, man. Step up. So next time you want to give this entry a hard time, do me a favor and give it one more go. It's better than you remember if you are willing to look.